Good afternoon. I'm Crystal Hartman, Program Manager and Chaos Coordinator for Forge Institute, where our mission is to empower our partners with cutting-edge technologies and new capabilities that advance cyber operational objectives and enhance our national security posture. A key part in building capability is having a highly trained workforce. We all have heard that our industry is expecting 3.5 million open jobs soon, and here at Forge Institute, we are doing our part to ensure we source capable people and provide training opportunities for them to become our nation's cyber defenders. I want to thank each of you for being with us today. We are pleased to be able to welcome those who have been in the cyber community for a long time now, as well as those who are new to the field and considering a career in cybersecurity. Today marks the start of National Cybersecurity Career Awareness Week, and we are proud to be able to host this kickoff event virtually with all of you. The purpose of the week is to inspire, educate, and engage individuals to pursue careers in cybersecurity. And we thought of no better way to do this than by hosting this kickoff event, bringing together some real cyber rock stars and community leaders. As we spend the next hour together, we'll engage in two great panel discussions. The first topic focused on why cybersecurity is an important role to fill in organizations and what to expect in a cybersecurity career, with the second panel showcasing the resources and programs available and pathways into these high-paying, tremendously rewarding jobs. If you have a question during any of the panel discussions, just drop it in the chat. And before we get started, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of the speakers for your willingness to participate in the panel discussions. This event wouldn't be possible without you. And if you're on social media, be sure to follow along using the hashtag ArkansasCyber. Without further ado, I will hand the mic over to Lee Watson, founder and CEO of Forge Institute, to kick off the first panel.
Thanks, Crystal. Thank you all again for participating in the panel or for attending today. Because we're short on time, we're going to get right into it. I want to introduce our first panelist for a discussion on really understanding what is cybersecurity and what are career opportunities in that. I'll introduce each panelist just briefly, but go ahead and give us a minute or so on your background and what you do. We'll get through that and then we'll start with the first questions. Adam Holland, let's start with you from GlaxoSmithKline.
Thanks, Lee. Appreciate the opportunity to join you today. I'm with GlaxoSmithKline and their cybersecurity division here, global cybersecurity. Been with the company for a little over a year. Prior to that, worked in retail and law enforcement on cybercrime. Here at GSK, responsible for security infrastructure as well as the technology stack side of the insider trust program and building that out for the company.
Thanks, Adam. Next, Laura Vaughn. Laura was the former CISO for Simmons Bank and is now at Fastly.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. So I joined Fastly, I've been there, this is my fourth week. So I'm doing Senior Director of Security Operations there, helping build out our security operations program in detection, advancement, and engineering.
Awesome, thanks, Laura. Beth Ann Bynum is VP Chief Security and Compliance Officer at Axiom.
Thanks, Lee, and I appreciate everybody joining today. Really looking forward to a conversation. 26 years in IT. Just joined Axiom about a year and a half ago. Before joining Axiom, I was in the healthcare sector, and really looking forward to the conversation today.
Awesome, thank you. Renee Tarn, Deputy CISO, Fortinet. I don't know if I saw Renee pop up yet, so we'll watch for her. Let's go ahead and go to Michael Howell. Michael is with the Department of Homeland Security, Cybersecurity, and Infrastructure Security Agency.
Hi, Lee. This is Mike here. Thank you for the opportunity to meet and join your panel today. I am with the newly formed Cyber Defense and Education and Training branch. I'm the Deputy Branch Chief for that branch, and we're trying to eliminate the 500,000 job openings that are currently existing in the cybersecurity workforce. So we've got a big task and look forward to working with everybody to make that gap smaller. Thanks, Lee.
Awesome, thank you. Now, what the participants should know about this panel is, I think they all have open jobs. So pay attention, ask some questions in the chat box if you're want to know more, interested in employment. So let's start with the first question. what is cybersecurity, and specifically, why is cybersecurity different than IT? And let's start, Adam, with you.
So cybersecurity is still that core foundational aspect of protecting your network and the data that you hold and are trusted with. What has changed in its definition and its application is it's now a very fast-paced ability to not only protect, but enable. Because in protecting, you still have to enable your users on the network to complete their tasks. And if you are doing your job correctly, you're enabling your business to move at a speed that gives it a competitive advantage. Minus security, it's no longer just technology and what's out there, what cloud or what tool would we use. If we don't have cybersecurity alongside to make sure we deploy in a secure manner, protect our data, and continue to demonstrate and earn the trust that we get from our customers and our shareholders and our boards, then it's definitely not going to do well in any aspect of how you approach that.
Laura, let me pivot the question to you a little bit. You've done cyber for a lot of different kinds of organizations, government, private sector, and different industry. What are your thoughts?
You know, from the difference between cyber and IT really is around IT typically is focused on making sure things work, which is part of security, obviously, because of the triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It's those other two elements that really matter more, I think, from the cybersecurity perspective. There's just so many different things that can be done depending on industry and the environment you're in to help secure and protect a network.
Thank you. Now, I saw Renee just popped in. Renee, we just did introduction, so I'll pivot to you for a quick introduction.
Hi, I'm Renee Tarrin. I am Deputy CISO at Fortinet. Been at Fortinet now for 3 years, focusing on our internal security, our product security, and policy and compliance. Prior to joining Fortinet, I spent over 20 plus years with the U.S. federal government, with part of that time with the Secret Service, and then the majority of the time at the National Security Agency. Thanks for being here. Apologize for being late. I had some technical difficulties with Zoom.
No worries. Thank you. See, even the IT and cybersecurity professionals have technology challenges. I know it makes me update all the time. Michael, I want to come back to you real quick because you're in an interesting place with federal government, but you're looking at the talent issues for federal government and I think private sector. What do you tell people that are thinking about a career in cybersecurity, you know, of what that need is and what some of the different areas of cybersecurity there are?
Hi, thanks, Lee. Yeah, one of the things that I always like to highlight for people that are considering coming into cybersecurity is there's many different ways you can work in the cybersecurity industry. We often tend to think that, you know, you have to have a computer science degree and be able to program to be able to do cybersecurity. And while that is certainly an area that you can excel in cybersecurity, there's much more to cybersecurity than just programming. There's certainly the communications aspect of it. There's, you know, trying to keep, as Adam said, you not only want to keep your data secure, but you got to keep your data accessible as well. There's definitely a communications opportunity within, you know, the cybersecurity realm. When I was in my previous job as running the watch for the operations center for CISA, it wasn't, not only were we concerned about, you know, the vulnerabilities that were out there and the attacks that were happening, but then turning that around and trying to make sure that the rest of the cyber world was aware of what we were seeing, making sure that they understood what was being attacked, how it was being attacked, and then sharing that information so others can protect against it. So the one thing I would say about cybersecurity is there's always a need that's out there. If you decide to come in this industry, there's always going to be job opportunities, but there's often very different job opportunities. You're not sectored into just programming. You can do other things in cybersecurity as well.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Beth Ann, let me take that question to you because in your organization, which is fairly large, I would imagine you have a lot of different specialties within cyber.
Thanks, Lee. That's a great question. And just to pull the thread a little bit more on Michael's statement there, the ability to analyze risk and use detective skills are fundamental to roles in the cybersecurity space and the broader information security segment. And so over the years, we've had opportunities to cross-train and pollinate individuals. You know, three of the candidates that I've worked with in the past, one young lady started off, she was teaching in elementary school as an English major, but she had a propensity to dive, and she was a problem solver, and she wanted to change, transform her career. And so bringing her in as a technical writer, to Michael's point, there's so many different jobs within the information security space. It's all about understanding what's your strength, how can you bring your strength to the table, and then you begin to develop yourself in an organization. So in that particular case, she started off as a technical writer and a scribe, helping us manage our incidents, and then she went back to school. A lot of the programs that you offer here lately are similar courses that she took, and she's now an information risk analyst. And then I have other examples of individuals that retrained and regroomed themselves in a transformation type program, and were able to become security analysts more on the technical side. So you definitely have that breadth and width of roles within a security and a cyber defense organization, and it starts with understanding what are your strengths, what are the competencies that you bring to the team.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth. And I know a lot of folks ask us, or they kind of comment, they say, I'm not sure I can get into cyber because I don't have a master's in computer science. I don't have all of this highly technical background. But I think one of the things that's interesting is we've actually seen people do pretty well in cyber that come from a no tech or low tech background, because it's a fairly easy career path to get into because there are so many different options. Adam, let me kind of go back to you on this, because one of the things I think in your old job was kind of interesting is this kind of hunting for threats. And I want to spend the next couple of minutes talking about, this threat landscape, because I feel like this is a pretty interesting time to get into cyber, and the year 2020, for a number of reasons, have probably created more opportunities here.
Right. It's the threat landscape. We've struggled to keep our hands on it anyways, because it changes so fast. And then to your point, we had a 2020 hit us and take the entire global workforce remote basically overnight, and completely shift, and in some cases break what that did to infrastructure and ability, and all the way down to a shortage of parts to be able to get new servers and compensate for that traffic demand. The threat landscape we face now, it ties into every aspect of what we're discussing today, whether it's how we approach cybersecurity, what does that look like in a way to enable and carry your business forward. It's the landscape of your employees and what they bring into your environment or access off of your devices. But also, one of the things that we remind here is it's your employees and yourself as that consumer. We're all digital now, and what we carry in our phones and our smartwatches. You look at medical wearables and other things that are coming about. How we behave as a consumer, how we operate as an employee, and then how we execute as subject matter experts in cybersecurity are all tied together, and how we'll address that landscape. And it is now, with pretty much every aspect of business in our life around us being computer facilitated, the threat landscape's everywhere, in the devices in our home, in our office, in our commute, and in the hotspots that we tie into. So the challenge is huge. And it really adds to, not only is the career shortage helping feed some of that diversity as we've looked elsewhere for talent than what we used to, it means we have to bring in all those different walks of life, people that have certain subject matter expertise, people who have used certain technologies and can help us at the table with deciding how is it used, how can we protect it, and we make decisions that are real time instead of guesstimates on what the future may look like for that protection.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting if you look at some of the articles that come out either from the trade journals or from organizations like CISA and FBI and NSA. These are not all kids in basements that we're concerned about. So whether you're working for a government entity or a private sector company or anything in there, you have an opportunity to really sort of combat some nasty folks and protect systems. How does that, I guess I'll go to Michael or Renee here, how does that help attract folks to take a role in government?
I mean, from my perspective, I mean, you know, when I was at NSA, I was a hiring manager, and honestly, I mean, that was one of the recruiting techniques because, again, sometimes in the government space, you know, you get to do jobs that you can't do anywhere else legally. And so you kind of get a depth and breadth into, you know, what the nation state actors can do, what their capabilities are, but also access to some very advanced technologies. And that's, you know, definitely all valuable information and knowledge that, you know, once you do decide to leave the government, you know, that can be taken in to help the private sector folks as well.
And Lee, I'll jump in here. You know, Renee brings up a great point. You know, when you come to work for the government, oftentimes you're being allowed access to data. You're being allowed access to a tool that you otherwise wouldn't normally have an opportunity maybe to see. And then the other thing that's really great, at least on the government side, and I know having worked in the private sector, they have similar programs, but we understand that cybersecurity is a dynamic, ever-changing landscape, right? So when you come into work with the government, you know, we're going to have development programs that are going to allow you to continue to train and allow you to continue to get, you know, smart, because we realize that this technology is not stagnant, it's ever changing, and we need our employees to keep their skill levels up and to be staying on the cutting edge. And so one of the benefits of coming to work for the government or coming to work in this cybersecurity industry is many private industry, many government have, you know, professional development programs for our employees so that they can stay up to date on their skills and continue to learn and learn new skills in new areas. You know, you may come in, as Renee was saying earlier, you may come in as a basic analyst, but we may need to, you know, beefing up our workforce in incident response or in vulnerability management. And so you have opportunities to branch out into different specific areas within cybersecurity and then really develop your skills in a particular area if you want to go down that path. So that's what I really love about working with the government is the opportunities we have both to utilize the latest and greatest technology and tools, but also to continue to professionally develop as we continue our careers.
One of the opportunities I think for the participants on the call is government and industry seem interested in this revolving door where you can go work for one for a little while, then move into the other. And it's a really great opportunity to build your skills. Beth Ann, let me come back to you for a second and ask, you know, I would assume that the bad guys are out there training pretty constantly on how to mess with us. Being somebody that runs a cyber team, how do you think about, you know, kind of continuous professional development?
That's a great question, Lee. And if it's okay with you, I'll loop in David's question as well, because it sort of is a similar question. We have to move at the pace of technology. The actors that are attacking our perimeter, constantly looking to determine how they can get in, they understand architecture, they understand code, they understand it sometimes better than we do. And if we are not training up to that next level of digital capabilities or digital platforms or approaches that our teams are using to code and develop, then we're not ready to defend those environments. So if you're in college or if you're looking to make a transition into this environment and you're on the technology side, definitely understanding how to defend environments that are in the cloud. What's happening at the VPC layer? What's the difference between a command and control attack that's coming in a cloud environment versus something that's on-prem? We really are being stretched to look at the way the actors think and view our environments in a way that's totally different than before. So it's a combination, not just of technical training, like you and I have talked about, it's also it's a training of our mindsets. How do we think about defense? How do we think about our architecture? How do we think about a platform that's been in existence for a while? What's that new defense model? So it's constantly staying on the front edge, because the actors, they're not resting, right? They use the tools that we use to defend ourselves. They use the same tools to attack us, right? And so we've got to think that way.
Laura, let me kind of pivot the same question to you.
Sorry, the mute button's kicking my tail. The opportunities are so great in this field, in general, that if you get a start in one area, it translates to another. I've proven that throughout my career. I started in government service with the NSA and moved into energy for a little while, then banking, healthcare, banking, and now I'm in tech. So I think I saw some of the questions come up, people asking, how do I get into things? If you have experience in an industry, use that as your foot in the door. If you have been in banking and you understand how banks operate, then go look to get into the cyber field and IT in a bank, because your business knowledge will translate directly.
Thank you, Laura. Renee, when you were the hiring manager, what were some other things you would look at in individuals, especially those that maybe don't have a super strong technical background?
First and foremost, in this position, you must work and play well with others. You really need to be a good collaborator or partner. Even in my current job, I constantly tell my team, our job is to be business enablers. So we're here to support the business operations. And so from that perspective, we need to be partners and align with what I call our internal customers, and being able to understand what their requirements are, what their needs are, and how do we work together to solve some of those needs and challenges. So, it really looks at being a good collaborator, a good communicator. You can be the most technical person in the world, but if you cannot articulate that in a way that's comprehensible by people that may not be technologists, you're going to struggle. But also making sure that you're willing to take on, be a problem solver. That's kind of what we do on a daily basis, is that we solve some of the toughest challenges for our organizations. So if you like a challenge, then cybersecurity is definitely the way where you want to be, because I assure you, you'll never be bored.
It's a very dynamic environment. One of the questions coming in from some of the participants is, what kind of basic IT knowledge do you need to start with if you're just getting started in cyber? I'll just kind of open that up to any panelist that wants to comment.
I can share a couple things, and it's really understanding the network. So if you're going to come at it, I'm going to answer the question two ways, right? If you're going to come in at a technical perspective, you want to understand the basics of, network, architecture, cloud is, like I said earlier, understanding the cloud environments. You can actually springboard your career just focused on cloud defense and cloud, because there's so much growth. If you're, coming in and you've done a lot of work on information systems from a development perspective, understanding, what does secure SDLC look like? How are you securing the pipeline as people are coding and developing? So depending upon how your IT training has developed, you can springboard over. If you're coming in from an IT perspective and even like from a business analyst perspective. So one of the questions is, I've been at home for a long time. How would I jumpstart that career? There's a lot of work that has to be done, to Renee's point, that is just analyzing, problem solving. We have analysts that we assign work to, say, like, here's some data, let's look for some trends. So first, take a look at the different jobs that are in the information security space, and to Laura's point, begin to pivot yourself toward what's a job that I have the right interpersonal and cognitive skills to land, and then start to build out from there. Lots of online training too, as well, with the programs that we in the Forge Institute are providing.
I'll interject one thing, that if you're not familiar with the career opportunities on a broad basis, and you think, oh, security is this one thing, I would encourage you to look at cyberseek.org and the NICE, N-I-C-E career frameworks. Both of those resources have really great descriptions of some of the different areas and fields within security, as well as paths that you can take to get to those areas. I've found that really beneficial in talking with some undergraduate students I've worked with. Giving them the opportunity to look at that puts some of the corporate things into context that you may not know without being in the field already.
Awesome, thank you both. Now, we've got just a couple of minutes left, so let me ask Laura and Adam. The next panel is going to talk about pathways, and I know Bill's on there. We're going to talk about the collaboration with ACDS and the apprenticeship. but since you both have participated in the cyber apprenticeship program, how is that from effectiveness, I guess, at one of the pathways into cyber?
Okay, I'll jump out there first. It's been a huge benefit. So here, in the, kind of the theme and some of the questions and the comments from the panel is around how to find those different pathways and how do I career transition. And we've found two benefits out of this particular path. One is that non-traditional employee, apprentice, or students that's making a career change, while not coming from a technology background, they have the aptitude and that tinker mentality that will serve them well with moving into this field in training. A lot of concern around what they've had in the past, but so much is changing daily that it ages quickly. So the new training you get is extremely relevant. And then second is that helping current employees and people that are already in the field enhance their capabilities with some of the new technologies that are there. It's been beneficial for both by finding these kind of partnerships to help us both in the community and in recruiting.
From my perspective, when I was at Simmons and we were staffing out our SOC, we were struggling to find people who had the knowledge, skills, and abilities we were looking for to come in. And when the opportunity to partner with ACDS and the ACA with the apprenticeship, we said, well, we can find a candidate who has the aptitude and train them up and have them working part-time with us while they're going through this program. It's a win-win. Just realistically speaking, that training is valuable, but so is the time on the job. And helping us fill those vacancies was really valuable.
Cool, thank y'all. So let's just go through each of the panelists now, and I'll ask you the final question. Any final thoughts you want to provide, but where do you see opportunity going in a cybersecurity career?
I can go first, Lee. Constant transformation. Maybe this is really springing off of Adam's point. Technology is moving fast, so constantly reinventing yourself, staying on top of the technology and evolving. I think that's what we have to do. That's what we're going to be all about.
Hey, Lee, this is Mike here. I'll jump in with one final thought. One of the things that we encourage people as they're going through training and wanting to get into cybersecurity is do training that not only gives you knowledge, but gives you hands-on experience. Get to one that has one where you have access to a range, and there's a lot of different ways where you can kind of, get that hands-on application. But as a hiring manager, and, when we look at someone that wanting to come into the field, we want to see someone that not only has the knowledge, but has applied that knowledge and actually done some of the work. In the cyber range, we're going into an apprenticeship program where you get a chance to really do some hands-on operations is a great opportunity, and I would encourage people to pursue those.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I would add, as you're going into the cyber field, don't discourage because I don't have the technical background. There are plenty of, certificate programs out there, programs in various private sector as well as in universities and colleges to give you those technology skills. There's a lot of different certification programs out there to help get you those skills. But my thing would be, don't be afraid to try, but also talk to someone that's in the industry. Find a mentor and ask them about their career paths and see what advice that they have for you.
From my perspective, my biggest piece of advice is be curious and don't be afraid to try things. That I've seen people be far more successful just by going and tinkering and playing. That tinkerer mentality will get you really far. Set up your home lab and play with things, go set up free trials on the different platforms and just poke at things. You will learn far more by putting hands on keyboard and just playing than you will by reading a book. And that will get you really far.
Lee, I'd want to remind the listeners, echo what all the panelists have said, great input, but remind them that that journey, that career in cybersecurity doesn't have to begin after a certain class or certificate. They begin it now in whatever role that they're in. They become a commodity and a benefit to their business. I can put out all the security controls I want, but if my user base and my coworkers don't understand how to avoid some of the threats that I can't disable because I can't completely lock down the business, then there's a whole nother problem that begins there. So look at how you begin to understand that threat landscape we talked about. What are the concerns you have with your devices, your connectivity, your emails, and begin to have that conversation in your business, demonstrate your interest, your aptitude starting there, and then build that career out. Move forward with all the great advice that's coming from the panelists.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all. Really appreciate the panelists for their time. Feel free, if some of you have to go, but if you want to answer any of the questions in the chat box directly, that'd be great. Before we wrap this up, though, I see Cody Waits is on here. Cody, can I introduce you real quick?
Sure.
So Cody Waits is with the Arkansas Department of Commerce, Office of Skills Development, and he's been a big partner with us as we've started offering a lot of the cybersecurity training programs. In fact, I think most of the employers on this call have taken advantage of some of his programs. So Cody, you want to introduce kind of what your office does?
Sure. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate that. And good morning to everyone. Well, I guess it's good afternoon now by 2 minutes. Cody Waits, I'm the director for the Office of Skills Development here at the Department of Commerce. And as Lee said, not only in cybersecurity or IT, whether you're looking at web developers or data analysts or just IT generalists, right? We partner with employers across a number of sectors from manufacturing, healthcare, IT, construction, and trying to find ways to, number one, reduce cost to employers for training their either incoming workforce or incumbent workers, as well as trying to find different unique opportunities and projects to invest in as ways to provide a more skilled and technical workforce for the state of Arkansas. So whether, back to Lee's point, whether it's the IT boot camps or whether it's IT apprenticeships in cybersecurity or any other occupation, we strongly support those initiatives and those training programs because of the outcomes that we've seen in terms of just not only from employer feedback, but in increased wages and increased technical experience and skills. I heard someone mention a few minutes ago, talking about knowledge, skills, and abilities. And when we see those individuals move through those stage gates and gaining those competencies, it's encouraging for us to be able to see that. And then obviously, we like to be able to capture what's that return on the investment to the state of Arkansas. And the legislature is very interested in that, as well as the governor's office. So being able to tie some of the funding that we provide to employer training programs is very, very opportunistic of us. So we do that on the workforce training grant side. We also act as the state office of apprenticeship. So all apprenticeships in the state of Arkansas flow through this office. We partner with different agencies and divisions within commerce to work through that and to braid funding streams, whether it be federal funds or state funds for. So we partner with the Division of Workforce Services very closely on apprenticeships. And so, we have that piece as well. And then kind of the final piece of the tripod is our connection to career and technical education in the Department of Education with secondary career centers around the state, where we have 30 of those locations, most of which are operated on post-secondary campuses. And that's where our high school students are going, and they're getting concurrent credit, dual credit enrollment at a post-secondary institution, while aligning those programs to apprenticeships, to associate's degrees, certificates of proficiency, and technical certificates in order for them to be on a pathway. So I sometimes tell people we build bridges, just not the kind that the Department of Transportation builds. We try to build bridges between education and workforce so that we're making sure that the investments we're making are aligning to the needs of what you all have every single day. So thanks, Lee. Appreciate that.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Cody. One of the things I'm personally excited about is to see how Cody and his team have streamlined the state government functions. And Arkansas is a big enough place to do things, but small enough you can build relationships to do things. And I think we're going to see Arkansas as being one of the places that leads the country in cybersecurity careers in not a long time. So we're really excited about it. All right, so now let me introduce Scott Anderson. Scott joined the team in April after retiring from the United States Air Force, and Scott's going to facilitate a panel about pathways. Scott?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. Like Lee said, I'm Scott Anderson. I'm going to have the privilege of moderating the panel that's going to talk about the many pathways into careers in cybersecurity. I know there's there's a ton that exist, and I think our panel is going to be able to highlight, what the efforts they're working on. So similar to the last panel, we'll just kind of go through, do intros, kind of maybe what your organization's goals are. And we'll kick it off with Anthony Owen, who's the Director of Computer Science for Arkansas Department of Education.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate the group. Glad to see everybody. Anthony Owen, State Director of Computer Science Education, technically under the Department of Education, but a Special Projects Office for Governor. I've been honored to lead this educational initiative since 2015, since it was launched, and just happy to continue on providing our students with access to great quality computer science education.
Thank you, Anthony. Next, we'll hand it over to Ryder, who's the Director of Strategic Programs and Initiatives for the Women's Foundation of Arkansas.
Hi, I'm Ryder Buttrey. I am Director of Strategic Programs and Initiatives over at the Women's Foundation of Arkansas, and I see lots of familiar faces on the call that we've had the privilege of working with on our Girls of Promise initiative, which is part of our overall mission. We have a mission through research, grant making, and programs to help women and girls in the state achieve economic security. And we see STEM pathways, but especially cyber pathways as a great avenue for that. So we've had the privilege of working with a lot of people on this call to get girls and women into the various pathways that many of our partners on this call offer.
Thank you, Ryder. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Christian, she works in the National Guard, the Professional Education Center in North Little Rock. Lieutenant Colonel Christian.
Hi, I am Lieutenant Colonel Kimberly Christian. I am in charge of the training center here at the Army National Guard Professional Education Center. I've been doing cybersecurity and cyber for the last 25 years, and I am helping train our current and future cyber force.
All right, thank you, Colonel. GB, he's the founder of Emory Group.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, GB CAS, been in the economic development space, building IT ecosystems around the country. In the past, also have worked with multiple small and medium-sized businesses growing IT tech companies. So a pleasure being on the call, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk with everybody.
All right, thanks, GB. Now we'll go to Joe, who's Director of Workforce Development in Northwest Arkansas Council.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Again, just to repeat, I'm Joe Rollins. I'm the Director of Workforce Development for the Northwest Arkansas Council, and we work with a lot of different apprenticeship models. We're working closely with some of the folks in this panel, specifically in the IT tracks, all the way from generalist through software development and now starting to work through cybersecurity. So thank you for letting me be here. Love to talk about what we're doing.
Glad you're here. I appreciate that. Last but not least, Bill Yoder, who's the Executive Director of the the Arkansas Center for Data Sciences.
We're not the American yet, Scott. Thanks.
Not the American.
Bill Yoder, Executive Director of the Arkansas Center for Data Sciences. We're a public-private nonprofit in the tail end of our second year. And really our mission is to help close some of the gap between the demand for IT talent and the current supply in the state of Arkansas. Secondarily, to help educate employers on the value of their data and talk about the data science process to those employers.
All right, thank you, Bill. So for the first question, I'd like to hear from a couple panelists about how your organization is helping to match talent to the employers. And Bill, you were last to go. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and then maybe someone else can step up.
Well, thanks, Scott. Sure. Adam Holland used the word non-traditional. ACDS really supports all of the traditional pathways, K through 12, higher ed. But one of our real focuses is what I would call a non-traditional pathway. And we use the registered apprenticeship program to do the classroom training as well as on-the-job training as well as mentoring. And we have people that work with the employers and match those to our talent acquisition people.
Thank you, Bill. Anthony, do you mind following up on that question?
No, so really coming from the educational space, we're looking at our pathways and our options that we're providing our students, and just ensuring that we have teachers trained. We're actually undergoing our standards revision. Most content areas standard revisions take place every 7 years. Whenever I took this job, I told them that just was an unrealistic cycle in the world of computer science. So we are doing a micro revision every 2 years and a full revision every 4, and we're in that full revision status going right now. And I mentioned that to say that we are building out multiple pathways. We're adding a data science pathway, we're adding a computer engineering, and we're fleshing out our cybersecurity pathway more clearly for our students and for our teachers. But really what I have learned through interacting with Eli McRae, who's the cybersecurity expert on our team, is that cybersecurity is really just a mentality more so than it is a course of study. It is that hacker mentality, that cracker mentality that we're trying to develop in our students, and that inquisitive technology, or that inquisitive nature. So really, that's the cybersecurity is going to be built into all of our pathways. We have a standalone pathway, but really we're approaching it less about you need to know X, Y, Z, and approaching it more from the aspect of you need to be considering doing and looking at things from this lens.
Thanks, Anthony. Joe, up in Northwest Arkansas, I've heard through, and this follow on to that question that Anthony and Bill answered in regards to employers not completely, there being a gap from what people either are getting from those pathways or from what employers want on someone that's entering the workforce or their positions that are advertised. Is there something specific that you're doing on the council up there that is helping to, I guess, bridge that gap?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're right. There is a gap. The need right now is far outpacing the numbers that we can push, but we're trying to make connections with employers on a daily basis to bridge that. Just pulling general IT talent numbers statewide as of this morning. And again, this is just talking about within the state of Arkansas, but we're looking at almost 3,000 openings as they range in a lot of the apprenticeable fields that both the ACDS and the council and several other of the entities on this call are working to fill. Almost 3,000 openings. That's representing just shy of 800 employers all statewide. So the more that we can get out and make personal introductions with the employers and bridge the awareness gap with our student body, both traditional and adult upskilling candidates, a lot of our folks don't really understand when we talk about fields in terms of IT or software development or cybersecurity or data analytics or any other host of needed fields. They don't understand that those trainings don't have to be a full degree. So we have to make sure they understand some of these trainings can be covered through apprenticeable, cost-covered opportunities, and then we direct them back towards sites that kind of fill that information gap. And I love to plug this one because it's one that we're building and trying to grow in partnership. But the information pieces that are found, there's a website called careersnwa.com, and we're working with folks from the state to try and make that a statewide resource, just bridging that awareness gap so that people understand there are opportunities, there are ways to fund it, and there are employers who are out there willing to catch me as soon as I complete the training. So going through the partnership programs with Cody and his team and Bill and his team and a host of others, we're trying to make connections with employers to bridge those gaps daily. And if you're an employer on the call and have a need for entry-level talent or even upskilled talent, plug in with us and let us help drive traffic your way. We would love to do that.
Thanks. Anybody else want to answer that question before I jump on to kind of the next?
Well, Scott, one thing that comes to mind that we should add, we spend an awful lot of time, all of us that are on this panel, talking to the Arkansas employers, the corporations. And the first thing we try to identify is what are the skills and occupations that they're having trouble finding. And after software developers, cybersecurity and data analysts come in right behind there. And so there's, if it's 3,000 jobs, probably 1,000 of them or more are cybersecurity occupations.
All right, thanks, Bill. And this kind of follows on in the same discussion in regards to, because of that demand and those vacant positions, how does that change your efforts within your organizations? GB, do you mind picking up on that?
So wearing both the employer hat over the years, as well as working with the nonprofits on the workforce development side, what we did as an employer and what I encourage companies to do is don't try to put everybody in the same bucket. So we've got to open up our, the lens of how we look at candidates, looking for folks that, not everybody needs to have this degree and this experience. It's really looking at I think it's been mentioned earlier, the aptitude of the candidate, how they think, how they work. I mean, some of the best developers I've ever had were sociology majors and music majors, not computer science majors. So again, it's changing the lens of which we look at talent so that we open up, we can get a broader pool is key to that. And also, with the advent of boot camps and these different training academies are really changing the game and looking at experience-based work. So if folks may not have the traditional degrees, but they have projects they worked on or experience they can showcase, that's really highlights, moves them up in the rank, if you will, looking at resumes. If that helps answer your question or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that. Lieutenant Colonel Christian, I know I'm familiar, having been in the Air Force for 24 years. I'm familiar with the training that the DoD has done. And we're very fortunate to have the Professional Education Center there in North Little Rock. But Lieutenant Colonel Christian, do you mind sharing a little bit about your efforts and opportunities where what you're doing can develop cybersecurity professionals?
Sure. So again, echoing what other people have said here, cyber is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. It covers a great multitude of different skill sets. And so it really is looking at how people come at a problem, how people think about a problem, and also taking into account, just because you are the most senior person in the room or you're the most junior person in the room doesn't mean you aren't the one and the only one with the right answer. So some of what we do is training people on how to find the answer, but then some of what we do is training people on how to present the answer once they found it. So getting at the critical thinking skills and then being able to communicate that with people left and right, up and down of you, that is very important in what we do in cyber. And so those are some of the areas we train people in. But we're kind of lucky in the fact that a lot of companies already recognize the skill sets and capabilities we bring to the table. So a lot of our soldiers and airmen, depending on if you're in the Air Force or the Army, are already highly sought after. So we're just really able, so like for an employer, we can take that person that you've hired, and by being in the Guard, we can give them additional skills and additional capabilities at no cost to the employer, simply by them being affiliated with the National Guard.
Thank you, Colonel. Ryder, do you mind sharing with us some of the efforts that your organization is doing about making cybersecurity more of a diverse, career field?
Yeah, and I love this question about demand because we were involved in the STEM space, but we started really steering our efforts towards cyber because, like everyone's mentioned on the last two panels, there are a lot of pathways, there are a lot of educational backgrounds and upskilling that can happen. And not only are they high paying and in-demand jobs, but there's an educational attainment gap for women in the state. And so I've always liked leaning into cyber because I feel like it is a path for women who may not have other opportunities or may not be able to break into other fields. And so we've always focused on really 6th through 12th grade education for girls. And that is where our programmatic focus has been. But I think with what's happened this year with the timing, we're also a grant maker, so we can fund in areas and in other programs that we feel align with our goals. And something that we've been having conversations with at the foundation for the past several months is what's going on with the economy and how that's disproportionately affecting women. And we have women losing jobs at disproportionate rates because of the industries affected by the pandemic. And so those are women that may be possibly looking for a career change. But we also have women leaving the workforce at really high rates. I think it was over 850,000 alone in September, women left because of childcare. And so I think those are women who, after the pandemic is over, or even right now, may be looking for a career change or an industry that offers a little more flexibility as far as remote work, which I think is something you can find in cyber positions. And so I think this has provided a real opportunity for us and our community partners and our corporate partners and our educational partners to assist in this economic recovery by bringing women into these non-traditional pathways, women who may be experiencing housing insecurity or job loss. And it's an opportunity for them to make a career change and really move into an industry that has a lot more opportunity for growth and opportunity for a lot more stable of a paycheck. So that's kind of, I think, where our efforts will shift a bit based on what's happened this year with the pandemic.
Thank you, Ryder. Next question I'd like to hear from everybody on the panel is regards to if you could only give a person one piece of advice that's looking at a career in cybersecurity, what would that be? And then on the flip side, what piece of advice would you give in an organization that's hiring a cybersecurity professional? So kind of two parts there. Anybody want to jump in first?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So an employer is, I want to see not just the degree or the classes you've taken. If you can highlight a project, something that you've actually done and can speak to that and articulate what you did and the problem you try to solve, that, I mean, I've mentioned earlier, that will raise the bar, raise the resume to the top of the stack. And from an organization perspective is, like I said, you just don't go the same well every time for the talent. Broaden your mind and go out to other sources, because you'll find a lot of opportunities out there to really be great assets to the team. So.
Yeah, Scott, I would second that. And we talk to the employers and we say, open up the door a little wider. Don't say 4-year degree and 5 years experience. That's going to limit some of the people that really have great potential. And to the individuals, some of the best professionals are self-taught. It doesn't necessarily take a degree. And I think the first panel really dwelled on the fact that soft skills, communication skills, being able to tinker and teach yourself, those are very important. We have an assessment tool. It's not real scientific, but it is a list of questions that kind of says, do you have the potential to learn this particular occupation? And anybody that signs up for an apprenticeship program gets assessed, and that's how we start the process and move from there.
I'm gonna completely back up. I love what Bill just said about opening the door wider, because I think that's something we talk a lot about at WFA, and I think it's not just thinking about non-traditional or people with different backgrounds, but how can you support them once you get in there? So for women, they're going to have additional barriers that may include childcare or things like that. And we at the foundation have tools to help companies identify what some of those barriers could be and easy ways to support your employees, specifically females. And I think for women, on the other side that are looking to go into cyber, reach out to women that are in the field, or reach out to anyone in a position that you are interested in or want to learn more about. I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies. I do it, and you let fear prevent you from reaching out. But 95% of the time, people are super flattered that you're asking them for advice, and be willing to help, especially if it's another woman who may have not had that help getting to where she is. I think most of the time people are very willing to talk about how they got where they are and opportunities that they may have that would help you.
So from my standpoint, what I would tell someone who is interested in going into the field, and they may not have done that in the military, or even if you haven't been in the military, there are lots of tools out on the internet that you can download to build yourself a lab at home. It doesn't take very much to build your own lab at home and start doing some of these things that you read about, using these online tools, doing the different things within a closed environment, and honing your skill set. And then look for opportunities for apprenticeships. That's one of the things in the military, that if you've been in the military and you're getting out, we do have different avenues for apprenticeships, but you don't have to be in the military to necessarily apply for those apprenticeships. You've seen and you've heard other people here talk about the different websites, the different things that you can do. And even if there isn't a company that per se has an apprenticeship, you can approach them and say, hey, I've been doing this. Would you be willing to take me on as an apprentice? And then so from the other side, as an employer, again, I would go back like several people have said, and don't necessarily only look for people who have that 4-year degree and X number of experience. It's a mindset. Look for people who have an aptitude and the right mindset for this, and be willing to take them on. Maybe they start at that lower level, but you take them on and they're able to do a lot of great and wonderful things for you. I've seen a lot of people come from cybersecurity or cyber backgrounds over to a cyber team and just be able to add another dimension to that team that takes it to a whole nother level.
And I'm going to hop in here just real quick, Scott, and say that I echo what my other panelists have said, but I do want to, what I have learned from this, and the industry people know this so much probably better than I do, but what we're really trying to, once again, instill in our students and find our students, and I think it speaks over to the industry side, is if you don't have that natural curiosity, that inquisitive nature, that is really what makes a cybersecurity person different than, say, a traditional programmer or one of these other areas. That's really what we are seeing. They have to have that always wanting the next step and learn something else. I want to echo something that Lieutenant Colonel said earlier, because I was thinking as she was speaking about the ability to share information. One thing out of our new revision that we're very proud of is Dr. Schubert was part of this team, and I had mentioned earlier that we're doing a data science pathway, but actually in all of our pathways, we are now instilling a storytelling content cluster, getting to the point that many companies are coming to us and saying, we're getting these individuals with great skills and they have the technical know-how, but they can't talk to anybody about it. They can't share. They can't get in a team and talk with each other about what's going on. So it stalemates the process. So we are being responsive to industry and industry needs, and with our programs that we're developing. I'm also going to drop a link in the chat because I think it's appropriate at this point. We just launched a couple new videos, and one is a tech-based promotional video for our initiative.
Thanks, Anthony. Joe, I think you're last up.
Not a problem. I think I can probably say I agree with everything that's been said, but there's a dangerous word out there. And if somebody's looking for a job in cybersecurity, I think we pretty well illustrated the numbers, the availability, the opportunities for training. They're all out there. Don't let the face value of the word apprenticeship deter someone from taking a look at it, because if you look at old school of thought, that's usually been a word relegated to the dark, dirty, dangerous kind of jobs. That apprenticeship word means that we're going to do our very best to couple you with the best training and the best experience that we can to make you a fantastic candidate for a job. And again, I want to remind folks, a lot of these opportunities through grants are largely paid for applicants, but to the employer side looking in, they need to understand the success of these programs largely depends on their ability to come to the table and say, yes, we want to catch these applicants as they come out and be that hiring entity for them, because without a place to go, these apprenticeship programs are pretty hard to push forward. So to an employer, somebody said, open the door wider. I think it was Bill. And I want to say, absolutely. Employers, these are great opportunities to pair great talent, young, curious minds with people who have been there and done that before you lose that institutional knowledge on the retirement end. So fantastic opportunities, largely paid for. We have the need, we have the talent. It's just a matter of making the connections for our kids and for our employers.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. There's a little bit there that leads me into the last question. That if a couple of people want to jump in, this falls into some of the questions in chat too. So, are there some specific communities that young people or folks that are seeking a career in cybersecurity should look into?
Hey, I'll jump on that one. The military is a great place for someone to get a start in cyber. And you can do that in the National Guard. You don't have to go full time, as they say, on the active component side, but you can always choose that too. But you could become a cyber warrior. You could become lots of different things in cyber, and that's all through the National Guard. 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. We pay for your training. We work with a lot of employers, and you can get into it and you can find that you really have an aptitude in a certain area and you can deep dive in that area, or you could stay more broad and become, a little, like your CISSP guys, you're a mile wide and an inch deep. So it really is up to you how far you want to go with it. But the Guard is a wonderful place to start, in my opinion.
And mine too, by the way, I'll put a plug in there. Air or Army Guard. It was
Correct.
good.
Scott, just to put some specific communities names out there that I'm looking through the active list right now, and it's statewide. I mean, if I look at the top 25, there's Bentonville, Little Rock, Rogers, Conway, Jonesboro, Hot Springs, let's see, Fort Smith, Texarkana, North Little Rock, Stuttgart. Jobs are statewide. It's just a matter of making sure that folks understand where they are, and we'd love to help with that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Scott, I want to end with just a short plug because I should have started here, but everybody knows that on the apprenticeship program, we match the employers with the people, but the training comes from a training provider partner. And on cyber, we've got an excellent partner in Forge and ACA, and Crystal, Scott, and Lee have done a tremendous job in an evolving curriculum that has done a marvelous job in preparing people for full-time employment.
Thanks for that, though.
You didn't even have to pay him to say that.
I didn't.
I was going to plug too for any women on the call. Women in Cybersecurity is a national organization, but they do provide scholarships to attend some of their conferences. I know Laura, who was on the previous panel, has been involved with them. And that is a great option for women looking for a career change. And then also for anyone younger, I think the JOLT competition that the Venture Center holds during Techtober is a great opportunity to just kind of tinker, like Laura said, and get that curiosity, even if you don't even know if you want to go in this path.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Ryder. And there are lots of capture the flag type events. The JOLT is one that happens to be here local. There's another Shell on the Border, I think, is hosted in Fort Smith. But now, because everybody's virtual, you can get involved in multiple different capture the flag or tinkering type events across the country, across the world, really. So I just wanted to say, again, thank you to this panel. I think this information was very beneficial, and I'm going to hand it back over to Lee for a minute.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. So many people on the call are really interested in cybersecurity as a career, but they don't come from, that traditional background. We've talked a lot about that today. I want to turn the mic back over to Beth Ann with Axiom. She's, I think, got a story to share.
Thanks so much, Lee, and thanks everybody for the active dialogue today. If you're starting off and getting ready to plan your go-forward program for yourself, I just wanted to share just a personal experience. I am the result of a workforce transformation program many years ago, in the early 90s, which I'm now dating myself, so you can figure out how old I am. But in the early 90s, I was displaced. Had a degree, but the economy took a little bit of a dive. And I'm originally from New Jersey, and the state of New Jersey had a very similar workforce transformation program. And it was at that place, and taking advantage of all the things we've talked about today, it was the beginning of a transformation. It is possible for you to chart your course, change your life, and begin to change your ability to care for yourselves and your loved ones. The main thing is, as everyone mentioned here, is ask lots of questions, be inquisitive, and don't stop. Like if you find an area where someone says no, you acknowledge the no, but then you find the way, you find the path. Stay hungry, and then you will get there. And so I just share that with you because it is possible to start from a very small space. I came up to become a chief security officer through the GRC track, and then assumed responsibility for technologies halfway through that. But it's really more the point that you can do this, and you just have to stay hungry.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Lee.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's all give Crystal a little round of applause. She pulled all of this together. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Silent clap so it's not too loud. And Crystal, we'll turn it back over to you.
So thank you all so much for joining us today. It has really been an honor to be among such accomplished individuals. We hope that this event did create excitement around careers in cybersecurity and inspired those who have been thinking about this career path, and even those just getting started in their journey. So to learn more about Forge Institute and see upcoming training, visit our website, www.forge.institute. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter and connect with us on LinkedIn and Twitter. And thank you all again. Enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to share your cybersecurity career options on social media using the hashtag Arkansas Cyber.